I'm Louise Watts with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. With fewer than 80 days left until Taiwan's national elections, the ruling party is trying to regroup as another legislative candidate quits the race. But rival parties have their own problem: how to unite a fractured opposition. John Van Trieste reports.
Another blow for Taiwan's ruling Democratic Progressive Party, and this time right in the final stretch before an election. Lawmaker Zhao Tianlin has dropped his re-election bid. That's amid accusations he had an affair with a Chinese woman. The party's presidential candidate, Lai Ching-te, says he expects better from fellow party members.
党员言行思绪不符合社会期待，党中央必定严明党纪，不会因为了要国会过半，或者是为了要保住任何一席立委的席次，而牺牲本党的原则。
But this is the 7th legislative candidate from the party to quit the race. And with the election in January, there's little time to find replacements. The DPP isn't the only one facing challenges, though. On the presidential front, Taiwan's opposition is in even bigger trouble, deeply split between rival candidates. There has been talk of a joint ticket, uniting KMT candidate Hou You-yi and TPP candidate Gou and China.
它绝对不能变成淘汰赛，它必须是组成一个联队。
But for that to work, one will have to drop out of the race to run as vice president. And both have strong opposing ideas on how to decide who that should be. TPP candidate Gou and China says the KMT's plan for an open primary would lead to skewed results, even comparing it to a poisonous cocktail.
一罐砒霜喝下去会死。那时候那喝半罐就可以，还是死掉。底下设73个投票开手，投开票的时候还要设在国民党的民众服务处。我天哪嘛，这个还没投都知道结果。
The latest polls show that a majority of voters want the presidency to change hands, but those same polls show that a divided vote will hand the ruling party another 4 years. Campaign events like this one show that each candidate has its own strong base of support, but for the opposition to have any hope of taking the presidency, one of these candidates will need to step down. And so far, there's no sign that any one of them is willing to do this. John Su and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Billionaire and independent presidential hopeful Terry Gou hasn't been seen in public for days, a noticeable break in his usually busy campaign schedule. Gou's absence follows the launch of a Chinese investigation into the company he founded, Foxconn, a major iPhone supplier. Gou cancelled an event earlier this week and has yet to schedule another one. The tech mogul, who has positioned himself as Taiwan's CEO, hasn't been involved with Foxconn's day-to-day operations for some time, instead focusing on his bid to get Taiwan's ruling party out of power amid increasing tensions with China. For more, our reporter Joy Sung spoke with Zhong Jiayan, a professor of political science at the National University of Singapore.
With Taiwan's presidential elections coming up, what do you make of China's timing with this investigation into Foxconn?
Well, there's several things we can draw from the timing of the investigation. One is that Beijing is continuing to crack down on foreign firms, including tech firms. And this has been a trajectory that's been going on for a while. The other is, of course, the fact that we are nearing the presidential election in Taiwan, and this would be in early January, where Terry Gou will be running. And it would be difficult to ignore the fact that pressure on Foxconn seems to be a signal to Gou that he ought to behave and perhaps act in ways that are consistent with Beijing's interests. The articulation that Gou has put across is one where he could possibly negotiate with Beijing. From the investigation of Foxconn suggests that whatever negotiation is going to be on Beijing's terms.
Now, recently, there's been a lot of chatter here about a potential joint ticket between the opposition Kuomintang and Taiwan People's Party. But from the international perspective, what do you think people care most about and are hoping to see come out of these elections?
The view is that a joint ticket would be stronger in opposing the DPP, and that makes a lot of logical sense. My view is that I think there's very little incentive at this point for either the KMT or the TPP to get together, because the KMT, I think, is less willing to accept a subordinate position. And on the TPP side, I think for Ke, the big consideration is the viability of the TPP beyond himself. And for the TPP to be clear, it's perhaps less important for him to run on a ticket where he may actually not win, but to run as the lead candidate in order to bring TPP candidates into the legislative yuan. For international audiences, they don't really care that much about Taiwan's domestic politics. What they care about is regional stability, and what they care about is supply chains being accessible. And in that regard, their stake in the presidential and legislative yuan elections is an outcome that allows Taiwan to have its autonomy, such that you don't get the mainland-style rules and laws in Taiwan, but one where Taiwan isn't seen as provocative and where the PRC is willing to accommodate Taiwan's autonomy and special status.
That was Joyce Sung speaking with Zhong Jiayan, a political scientist at the National University of Singapore. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says his country is preparing for a ground invasion of Gaza. He made the announcement in a televised statement.
אנחנו ממטירים על החמאס אש תופת. כבר חיסלנו אלפי מחבלים, וזאת רק ההתחלה. במקביל אנחנו נערכים לכניסה קרקעית.
Israel continues to bombard Gaza with airstrikes, which Gaza's health ministry says have killed more than 6,500 Palestinians. The strikes are in response to a surprise attack on Israel by the Hamas militant group on October the 7th. That assault resulted in the death of around 1,400 Israelis, and over 200 are believed to be held hostage by Hamas. The UN has called for a humanitarian pause in the fighting to allow aid into Gaza. The enclave is running out of food, water, and medicine for its 2 million people. At least 16 people have died and dozens are injured after 2 mass shootings in the US state of Maine. The shootings took place at a bar and a bowling alley in Lewiston City. Police have identified a suspect and a search is underway. They found a vehicle they think belongs to the shooter in a town approximately 13 kilometers from the scene. China's military says Washington is using Taiwan to contain China, and that the US and Taiwan are the cause of tensions across the Taiwan Strait.
美国政府升级与台官方往来，不断对台军售军援，妄图以台制华，这才是改变台海现状的根源。美方和民进党当局才是台海紧张局势的麻烦制造者。中方采取必要措施捍卫国家领土主权，正当、合理、合法。
This comes after a report by the US Defense Department says China is one of the biggest threats to peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific. The Pentagon also revealed that China has ramped up its arsenal of nuclear warheads and is on track to have over 1,000 by 2030. China's military says it's committed to safeguarding world peace. That's despite Taiwan reporting 9 Chinese warplanes and naval ships operating around Taiwan on Thursday. California Governor Gavin Newsom met with Chinese President Xi Jinping to discuss climate cooperation. Relations between the US and China have soured in recent years, but climate is one area where cooperation is considered possible.
We're not going to move the needle on climate change unless the United States and China collaborate together.
The leader of the US's wealthiest state touted the importance of the US-China relationship. He wants California to be a gateway to collaboration between the two countries. He's on a week-long visit to China, focusing on climate action, tourism, and economic partnerships. Many of Taiwan's traditional crafts are fading into history, but the art of 3D embroidery is stronger than ever. Now, in part 3 of our series, Where's the Mayor Taking Us?, Andrew Ryan heads to the southern city of Tainan to find out why.
The streets of Tainan are anything but quiet. There are religious festivals almost every day of the year. After all, Tainan has a higher density of temples than anywhere else in Taiwan. And behind the religious fervor, there's a whole industry of artisans, silently creating the items that keep these traditions alive.
在国家的艺术奖里面，我们叫做人间国宝，台南的人数是最多的。所以说这个让我们走出去都觉得我们台南人的骄傲。不管是刺绣啦、绣庄啦、雕刻啦、做神明的衣服啊，都有很多老艺师。 他都非常的专注，获得了国家的肯定。
Artisans moved to Tainan to create the embroidery industry back in the Qing Dynasty. Their handiwork was so delicate that it found favor with the emperor. Today you can still find this artwork in Buddhist and Taoist temples and ceremonies, on altar cloths, tapestries, and even the clothing worn by deities. The founder of this embroidery shop was given the title Preserver of National Intangible Cultural Assets. Today, I've come to learn the art of 3D embroidery.
从这里面钻过去。
哦，
对，然后
非常厚。
对，你看它这个棉花都铺得很高。
这样对吗？
好，可以。
You have to have really good eyesight in order to be able to do this. This is incredible. She's not wearing glasses. She can see everything. I can't see anything.
This piece we're working on is a 5-meter-long tapestry. It's so heavy that it takes 2 adults to carry it during religious processions. And the labor that goes into one of these is stunning. It takes 8 people working full-time for 3 months to complete, at a cost of over $30,000 US. Many of Taiwan's traditional industries are in danger of dying out, but this shop is thriving. There are 15 artisans working here. Now, you may think that demand would be low considering the exorbitant cost and the fact that you only use these tapestries once or twice a year. But if you order now, there's a 4-year wait.
很多人可能认为我们要转型，其实我们不会转型，只是说我们希望把刺绣的生命能够去更加丰富它，而不是认为说它就是单单只能拜拜用。
In recent years, the traditional embroidery of Tainan has found a place in the realm of mortals. No longer confined to temples, it can be seen in art collections and even on the catwalks of international fashion shows. All thanks to the dedication and creativity of the artisans who make it. Scott Huang, Justin Wu, Peachy Zhuang, and Andrew Ryan for TaiwanPlus. Up ahead in Part 4, we head out in search of another Qing Dynasty tradition, the nation's only existing salt fields. Plus, a pit stop at one of the most Instagrammable places in Tainan.
We were just watching Part 3 of Andrew's trip to Tainan, and as you saw the next episode there, we'll have it for you later on TaiwanPlus News. Taiwan has won 2 more gold medals at the 4th Asian Para Games in Hangzhou, China. Both victories came in table tennis. Lin Zeyu beat fellow Taiwanese paddler Tian Xiaowen in the women's singles Class 10 final. Meanwhile, Chen Bo-yen bested Japanese Takamori Takeshi in the men's singles Class 11 final. Taiwan has now won a total of 3 gold medals at the Asian Para Games. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally today, we leave you with images of solar-powered cars racing through the Australian outback. I'm Louise Watt. Take care, and we'll see you next time.